We've got a pair of master club fitters from Second Swing joining us today on the episode. Kevin Kraft is back to give his thoughts on some of the latest club releases out there, including Titleist GT, one of the most important ones of the year. And then also we have Andy Thompson joining us, a master fitter at the Minneapolis store. He specializes in putter fittings, and he's one of the top aim point instructors in the country. So an interesting background, but nonetheless, it'll be great to hear from him. So stay tuned for another great episode of the Second Swing Thoughts Podcast. Hey golfers, and welcome back to another episode of the Second Swing Thoughts Podcast. I'm back here with co-host Sean Bauer, and we got a fun one today. A couple fun interviews, a couple very, not only smart but insightful and unique in their own right master club fitters, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're watching this, listen to this, you know Kevin Kraft already. He's kind of a staple among the Second Swing Thoughts podcast. So gives his thoughts on, a lot of the new clubs. I really thought some of his Titleist GT, especially with the GT2 and the TSR3, and the TSR2, comparing those. Very interesting, so make sure you tune for that. And then Andy, yeah, that's going to be a great one. Aim point putting has become such a big phenomenon, especially, you look at many tour pros using it. Mm-hmm. So to have someone with his expertise in that specific area, along with putter fitting, should be a great interview there. Really looking forward to hearing that. But before we get there, let's make the turn here. Our little segment where we talk about the latest news in the golf world, and we'll get to the President's Cup in a bit. But I saw a story pop up here out at the Sanderson Farms Championship. Rickie Fowler spotted with a different putter in his bag. Yeah, he's was seen with the Lab DF3 in the bag. Of course, Rickie, played the Jailbird Versa there, kind of started that trend, and now he's perhaps switching into the Golf WRX Members' Choice #1 putter of the year. Yeah,
kind of going from, starting one hot trend to maybe going right into another hot trend in terms of putters, right? Because we had, obviously, the 2023 was the year of the Jailbird. We had, and aside from Fowler, there was Keegan Bradley and Wyndham Clark winning big events with the Jailbird. I played a Jailbird and put one in my bag myself, and I can't say that those guys didn't have anything to do with it. I think their wins certainly brought more attention to the putter than I would have otherwise given it. So to see him change potentially here is a little bit sad for me because again, I think the Jailbird's awesome. It's helped me a lot. I could show you my Arccos numbers and how my putting's improved my rounds this year versus last year. But I don't know. There's something we talked about Lab and kind of their method, their how scientific they are, and some of it is a little bit unique. But you're seeing other manufacturers kind of emulate what they've done with the kind of the lie angle balance type of methodology. And so the DF3 tested really well. The Golf WRX members love it. And so to see Rickie throw it in the bag, I mean, he probably just wants the best stuff in his bag he can find.
Yeah, and I saw this on Golf WRX, which is kind of just struck me that, oh my gosh, like the guy who kind of started this huge putter trend has now switched putters to that start one. I'll be interested to see if he stays with kind of that 38-inch build with that counterbalance setup, or if he alters, just based on how that putter performs, if he goes back to a more traditional setup or what. But should be interesting to see. He also did have I think I saw a mini burner, a mini driver in the bag as well.
You're seeing more and more players, whether it's, skilled amateurs or tour pros, put those in the bag as well. So yeah, look at Rickie. He's I think these trendy things that we talk about a lot, either on the podcast or even in our YouTube videos, he's hopping right on the bandwagon.
Yeah, he's always at the forefront, it seems.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, Rickie was obviously a longtime member of the President's Cup teams. Wasn't in it this year, but not always, but just about every time the U.S. came out on top. A pretty dominant weekend by the U.S. It was tied going into the Saturday sessions. U.S. won 3-1, 3-1 on Saturday, and I forget the exact score on Sunday, but I think it was like 18.5 to 11.5 or 18.5, 12.5, something like that. So a pretty, convincing win for the U.S. It's their largest road win ever in President's Cup history. I pretty much watched the whole thing. Curious to kind of hear your thoughts first here on what you saw.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. I always enjoy seeing the team golf and the added emotion to it, regardless if it's Ryder Cup or if it's the President's Cup or any type of team, even watching like college golf and kind of like the national championships there is a lot of fun. I think there's obviously a big difference in the level of talent on Team USA versus the international team, and so there's a little bit of that excitement that's taken away versus the Ryder Cup, just based on history. What is it, 12-1-1 now all time is the record in favor of the U.S. So there's once the international team wins one or two of these, which they will eventually. It's bound to happen. They have won before, but it's like they do it again and they start to build that momentum. It'll kind of come in waves, but this one was just too much talent on the U.S. side. Like it seems like international side had to play so well, do things so perfectly almost to give themselves a chance. They did that on that second session, but to keep that up was just not really sustainable for them.
Yeah, that especially on that Saturday afternoon, they had rallied back on Friday to tie it up. They swept the U.S. after getting swept and, lost the morning session 3-1, but it was, pretty close. And they had a lead in that afternoon in a lot of those matches. Yeah. And then down the stretch, everything went the U.S.'s way. And I don't know if that's just Mike Weir sent out the same teams both sessions on Saturday, if you saw a little fatigue or what happened, but that kind of seemed like the dagger because they never really made a threat on Sunday. I do think for the U.S., I think they might have found a future Ryder Cup member next year. Russell Henley was fantastic. He's kind of, he's a little more mild-mannered than some, but he drives the ball well. He putts the ball well. He's good with a wedge. He's kind of, everything you want in a team format. U.S. always, even no matter which tournament it is, they always have, usually the longest players. But sometimes when they go over to Europe especially, they always struggle because it's so much more on accuracy or having to hit long irons into green, stuff like that. And I feel like he might be one of those players where maybe he doesn't bring the fireworks of, some of these, longer hitters. Yeah. But he kind of just gives you that, you're going to get par out of this guy. He's going to, an alternate shot, he's going to put you in the fairway, get you a putt. I think he went 3-1 for the tournament.
He's been one of the best iron players in the world for a long time now.
Yeah, and he's I think he's one of the most accurate drivers too.
Yeah, so he gets the job done, and you're right. He doesn't have the notoriety maybe of some of these other, noted Ryder Cup and President's Cup guys. Like a Justin Thomas or a Fowler who we talked about, who they've played on multiple teams and they've got a large following, so to speak. But he swings just as good as those guys. He hits the ball just as good as them. And so it was good to see him get that success. And I think now maybe some momentum for Ryder Cup next year. Again, whether qualifying points or maybe he will be a captain's pick. We have another year to see that out. But yeah, I think Henley he deserves his flowers. I think it's been a long time coming for him to kind of get some of this recognition.
Yeah, it's pretty cool too that Keegan Bradley, the Ryder Cup captain next year, earned the decisive point. Now, he missed a few putts that would have clinched it.
It would have been
probably
more fun,
the way he would have wanted to,
right.
But eventually he had built up a big enough lead where Siwoo Kim wasn't able to continue to chip away at that. Mm-hmm. But I think my kind of final thoughts is I agree with you. With the internationals, to get it, I don't know, it'll never get up to what the Ryder Cup is, I don't think, in terms of fan interest, but they need the international team to start winning some to make it a little more like, you kind of expect the U.S. to win every year at this point.
Yeah, because for me, the Ryder Cup is appointment viewing. Like I'm gonna, move my schedule around to make sure I can sit down and watch some of the Ryder Cup, whether it's being played in Europe and I got to get up in the morning, or it's here in the States. I don't have that same feeling for the President's Cup. Now I did watch plenty of this year's event, but I'm not rearranging my schedule to sit down and watch it. I might, if I'm available and I have the TV there, I'm going to watch it, type of thing. So you're right. Get a couple wins, and I think there's a lot of promise on that side. So I still believe. I mean, this event was competitive there for a large part of it. Just the way the Saturday ended up there on those sessions went U.S.'s favor, and then it all of a sudden became a really big hill to climb for them.
Well, I forget who exactly tweeted it. It was either Bob Herrig or Jason Sobel maybe, but one of them talked about, the U.S. has this huge advantage in terms of wins, but if you look at the point totals, it's really not that staggering amount of a difference when you consider the U.S. has won every single one but 2 of them.
Right.
So they are closer, but eventually, you have to win and beat them a couple times to draw up that little more of a rivalry intensity, because the Europeans did that. They kind of dominated the Ryder Cup there from, the mid-'90s to about 2012. I think the U.S. won 2, and one of them was an epic comeback. They also lost one on an epic comeback by the Europeans, but that's kind of the Europeans took over, and now the Americans, it seems like they've been trading off who wins at home, which has made it better because then it makes it more intense because you don't know what the result's going to be. President's Cup, I feel like a lot of times you kind of do.
And I think part of it too is there's just more history behind the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
So just in nature, the President's Cup's going to be a step behind in that regard, but there is a lot of talent there. I mean, it was fun to watch Tom Kim for, however you feel about maybe some of the antics, but I thought it was all in good fun, the way he was kind of trying to, bring about a heated, become a rivalry, right? He was trying to spark a bit of a rivalry, a heated competition is some of the things he was doing and saying. That hole out by Siwoo Kim on Saturday was a lot of fun, and the celebration that ensued. So that part's a lot of fun. Again, there's a ton of talent there. It's just when you have you have Scheffler and Schauffele playing at the level that they are, and then you back it up with guys like Cantlay, who seemed to make every putt he needed to this week in every match. So there's just so much there. But I do think between some of those young, like you have Hideki out there, who's a top 5 player. You had the experience of Adam Scott, and then you have all these younger guys like the Tom Kims, and then that trio of Canadians who can strike the ball really well. You have the potential, and it was close for a while. It's just the Americans closed out those matches on Saturday really well, and that was the difference.
All right, well, we shall see how it goes next time in 2 years, but let's move on to the main topic of the day. Mr. Andy Thompson, our master fitter at Minneapolis. Drew, you got a chance to speak with him here.
Yeah, very interesting. He's got a very unique background. Been doing this putter fitting, putter destruction thing for a while, and he has a very large arsenal of ways to make you better at putting, essentially. So we talked to him about those things, talk about aim point, which for me, before going into this conversation, it was like you see guys and gals on the green doing the, lining things up, looking at the hole a little differently, and you're like, what is going on here? So he gives a little bit of insight into that as well. So pretty interesting conversation.
All right, let's hear what Andy has to say.
All right, now joining the Second Swing Thoughts podcast, you have a very special guest. It is Andy Thompson, putter fitter at our Minneapolis store location, and just a knower of all things putting. We'll talk about it a little bit, but very extensive background in putting. So Andy, thank you for making the drive over here to our studio.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and hanging out with us for a little bit. Kind of just for those who don't know who you are watching or listening to this, kind of just, if you could, we want you to kind of introduce yourself because I think by the end of this, a lot of people will be trying to hunt you down for a putter fitting.
Well, that'd be great. Yeah, I've been in the golf industry since about 2005.
Okay.
I was in corporate America and decided I wanted to start my own golf improvement business, and started a company called Totally Driven back in 2005. We were one of the first, if not the first, golf improvement centers indoor in the country. When we started, a little bit ahead of our time, but we did golf improvement of all kinds, lessons, club fitting, golf-related exercise, and kind of, the full gamut, just trying to help people get better.
Right. And I imagine, too, at that point, were you a big golfer, before this, or did you kind of, how did that come about in this interest in golf?
It's kind of weird. I mean, I was was more of an athlete. I played all the other sports. You know, I played basketball, hockey, football, softball, and body started breaking down. I started getting a little bit more into golf. I wanted to get a little bit better, and I kind of recognized myself that I had to go to one place to get a lesson, another place to get my clubs fit, and then another place for physical therapy. And I thought, geez, this should all be people talking together and working together.
Sure. I mean, you found something that struck a chord with people here, at least in Minnesota, because now there's all kinds of these facilities around where, especially when we have 5 months of the year or whatever where golf courses aren't even open, and so you need a place to go get your golf fix. And so Totally Driven, checked that box for a lot of people.
Yeah,
I imagine.
Yeah. It was fun. Sold that business in about 2015.
Okay.
And have been doing more putter stuff since then. Actually, I started doing putting lessons and putter fitting, in probably 2006.
Okay.
And I just really kind of lucked out. I met some of the industry experts, David Adele, who had a putter fitting system. I met him through Mike Shy, who was Bryson DeChambeau's coach, and just a happenstance meeting. And he connected me with David, and then David connected me with Bobby Dean and David Orr, and then eventually Mark Sweeney, who was the inventor of Aimpoint. And through Mark Sweeney, I met John Graham, who's out teaching on tour and stuff. So I've had tons of mentoring over the years with some just fabulous people that I just kind of lucked into, to be quite honest. So.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed too, and even just my short stint here, and with Second Swing, is just all the people that you can kind of meet throughout the golf industry, right? And we'll get to your Aimpoint Level 3 certification, which is very rare and very cool. But just in general, in terms of you mentioned kind of getting into putters, putter fitting, putter instruction back 2006, and then I know that's kind of your emphasis now in the fittings with Second Swing. Is there a reason in particular you kind of gravitated towards putters and putting, or is it sort of just kind of happen?
It's one of those things that just kind of happen. I realized in the business my role needed to be as a club fitter, which I had absolutely no experience in. At the time, it was all the club fitters were just in components.
Oh, sure.
There weren't any name brands that were doing club fitting. It was just done at country clubs a little bit.
Yeah.
So I learned from some of those guys, and after I met David, and I was one of the first owners of a SAM putt, so I bought a SAM putt device, and I had to learn that and wanted to learn that, and I really was kind of intrigued by all the stuff I was learning from this cool tool and all these people that I happened to meet, and I thought, man, I really like this,
right?
And I just learned more and more from different people. And everybody was so helpful and willing to teach me things. And I had a lot of questions and got a lot of answers, and learned so much from folks that I just started, gravitating towards doing it. Still did all the club fitting, but then when I had opportunities, I do putting lessons as well. And then Aimpoint kind of came along where I had an opportunity to become an Aimpoint instructor. And it kind of just grew and grew from there. Yeah.
I mean, that's because now you kind of cover all realms of putting, really, right? I mean, if you need a putter fitting, Andy's your guy. If you need a putting lesson, Andy's your guy. Or if you now we're kind of getting into this Aimpoint part of things as well, as if you need a way to read greens a little bit, Aimpoint. So Aimpoint is something that maybe the casual person might see when they watch the PGA Tour, LPGA Tour on the weekends. They see a golfer with their hand up, they got the fingers up, and you're kind of like, what's going on there? So if you could kind of give like an overview of when you see that on TV, what is the golfer doing, and I guess what does Aimpoint achieve for them?
Aimpoint really was developed, I don't even know the exact date, probably 2008 or so, by Mark Sweeney out of Orlando. And Mark was just an average golfer, just trying to get better, and his putting was kind of his downfall. And he went to his instructor for help, but he wasn't getting really what he needed. He couldn't read greens. And he kind of devised this system, again, by really just hard work and rolling balls on a green and determining that if he knew some information, if he knew how steep the slope was, what angle of the slope he had, the green speed, and the distance from the ball to the hole, he could predict exactly how the putt was going to break. So what he did is he first went to the Golf Channel and said, hey, you know, you watch golf on TV and, you know, you guys are saying it's breaking left or it's breaking right, but the viewer can't see any of that. I mean, it just looks like a flat green. He said, I can put a graphic on there that'll show you exactly how that putt is going to break. And the Golf Channel said, yeah, let's do it. So Mark actually did that first, won an Emmy for that. He was the first one that put that curved line on the
interesting.
On the screen so the viewer at home could see what the putt was going to do. And after that, Mark said, well, you know, I've done this. Now I want to help people get better. You know, it's helped my game, and I think I can help others get better. So he started with what was called an aim chart. And this aim chart took those 4 measurements that you needed to have, and you basically looked at the chart, and it told you exactly how much a putt was going to break. So that was actually the first one before we went to the fingers and that. So I learned that original method through Mark, and it was pretty successful. There were a couple folks. Stacy Lewis won a couple majors with it. Name is escaping me, but one of the guys on the PGA Tour, Scott McCarron, actually went from like 125th in the world to top 10 in putting stats just by taking aim point. And the problem with that was it was a little slow, it was a little cumbersome. You had to do math in your head, and not everybody acclimated that well to it. So, you know, I'd work with people and I'd check with them later. Yeah, I learned a lot. I'm using some of it, but, you know, not really doing it. But that's all we knew.
Right.
You know? So then by happenstance, Mark was teaching some young kids, 8 and 9 years old, how to read greens. And he realized that aim chart was going to be way over their head.
Right,
so
a little complicated for them.
Yeah, so he just goes, let's just do it down and dirty. If it looks like it's a steep slope, you know, put 3 fingers up. And if it looks like it's a small slope or it feels like a small slope, just put 1 finger up. And he was surprised how well that worked. He started comparing it to the aim chart and recognized that, wow, this is super close to the chart. And through some fine-tuning, he came to the rest of us instructors the following January when we had our annual meeting and said, guys, we're switching over to this. And
wow.
And we were like, gobsmacked.
Yeah, that's got to be my first. I mean, my first question is how everybody thought when you're like, okay, we have this chart that's probably super deliberate and it's got all these numbers and stuff, and now we're just gonna hold our fingers in the air. Like, how's this? You know, that was probably like a shock to the system in a way. It was a shock,
and you know, we were concerned, and some of this has happened. We were concerned that people were going to see this on TV and find out a little bit about it, and then just start trying to do it on their own and not really do it successfully. And some of that has happened, but we've gotten through that.
Yeah.
But really what it is you basically, between your ball and the hole, you stand in between in a couple different spots, and you feel the slope between your feet. And we teach you how to put a number value on that.
Okay.
And once you put that number value on it, you just come back to behind the ball and put that amount of fingers up, close an eye, put one side on the middle of the hole, and wherever this is where you're aiming it. Super simple. So that took the complexity out of it, made it really quick to learn, and in a 2-hour clinic, people learn how to read any putt on any green. The other thing with the chart, it was only from 20 feet and in. Now with Aim Point, it's called Aim Point Express. You can actually read any putt on any green, double breakers, 60-footers, 3-footers, didn't matter.
Wow.
So
that's a crazy evolution of that, and a pretty small amount of time, I feel like, to get that going from just this chart, 20-footers, and then all the way up. And now I have to, I mean, I see more and more of it, you know, from at least what I watch on TV. There's a pretty long list of like tour pros using this now, right?
We just watched the President's Cup, and you know, I didn't count, but it seemed like at least 50% of those folks were using Aim Point, and 50% of tour winners worldwide are using Aim Point.
Yeah.
So
wow,
and over 50% of D1 college players are using Aimpoint. I know you were a D1 player at one point, and that was probably prior to Aimpoint, but all those folks, if you were doing it still, you'd be probably using Aimpoint now.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's fascinating. Again, it's been something that I frankly haven't. I've been looking at. I'm like, I don't know if I want to dive into that as much, But I think to me, it's almost like a general, kind of want to say oversight of putting. But there's like, you have all these elements of putting. You have, and that's something that on a golf shot, you have wind to factor, you have your slope on your ball to factor, but then in terms of putting, it's kind of reading the green is sort of that same, the equivalent, where you have your putting stroke, you have your golf swing, you have your equipment, then the last thing is kind of the slope, and that is something that needs to be considered 100% on all of these shots. I guess as a whole, now we talked about Aimpoint and everything. Do you feel like putting is sort of maybe underappreciated in the game? Because I've noticed in fittings at Second Swing, it seems like a ton of people get their driver fitting, a ton of people get their iron fitting, and then it seems like a lot fewer people make sure that their putter is fit. It's like, do you see that in golf today?
Absolutely, yeah. It's the last thing that somebody would think of getting fit, and I think part of it is really there isn't a lot of education about it, and people just think that a putter's a putter. I'm just gonna grab this one. I like the look of it, and this one will work. But in reality, what I found is, you have to have the right length of putter first of all.
Right.
But I like to see a player in a putter that they can at least aim towards their target. I mean, you were talking about some of the factors in the full swing, but those factors exist in putting as well.
Yeah.
And
sure.
The three main ones, I think, are you got to be able to read the green, you got to be able to hit it at the target that you chose, and you got to be able to control your speed. And certainly a putter isn't going to help you read the green, but it will help on those other two. So the way I do fittings is I basically use a laser, and I'll have a player aim it at a target, and then I'll put a laser down, and we'll show them where they're actually aimed. And from 20 feet, I mean, it's not unusual at all to have somebody aiming 3 or 4 feet left or right of the target, believe it or not. And they are all totally shocked.
Really?
Totally shocked. I would say maybe 1 out of 10 players would aim it pretty well.
Interesting.
And so back to your point, I mean, it's undervalued and underappreciated because people don't know that. I mean, everybody assumes that they're aiming it at the target. And if they're not aiming their putter at the target, well, what are you going to do to make putts? If you're aiming it left, you're going to leave the face open. You're going to compensate somehow so that you can hit the ball at the target. If you're aiming to the right, you're going to shut the face. We call it pushing and pulling, but really about 90% of where the ball is going to go with putting is what's the face doing at impact.
Right. Interesting.
And people, through manipulation, are doing okay, but is that really the easiest way to putt? I don't believe it is. So that's kind of where I start. Obviously, we want to get the loft right. We want to get the lie angle right. And the loft especially, if we can get the loft right, we can get the ball rolling end over end, and it's much easier to control your distance with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, again, putting it's overlooked a little bit, as we talked about, but you just kind of ran through all the different elements that are involved with it. And suddenly, if you get all those things lined up, you can play a lot better, you can shoot a lot better scores, and it's going to be a heck of a lot better scores for you. So, all right, well, Andy, thanks for the time today, and again, making the drive over here. I know you've got a very fascinating background in putting and everything, but we've also got some time carved out next week to go out on the golf course and film a little bit, and I'm a little bit scared of what we're going to find out with my game. So, but I appreciate the time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, that was a great talk there, Drew, with Andy. That's Andy Thompson there. He is a master fitter over at Second Swing Minneapolis store, a putting expert, a lot of knowledge in the putting game, most important club. So if you're looking to, dial that in, make sure to, visit that Minneapolis store, schedule a fitting with Andy, and that's not the last you're going to hear from him either.
Right. We've got some time carved out to film out on the putting green with Andy. So we're going to talk about my putting and, what I maybe do right and wrong already as it is right now. And we're going to go over aim point a little bit as well. So stay tuned to the YouTube channel for that coming soon.
Yeah, that'll be good. And that's not our only master fitter on the show today. We got Kevin Kraft back once again. And you spoke with Kevin here. We hadn't talked to him for much of the summer, so didn't get to hear his thoughts on kind of these latest clubs that came out this summer and early fall. So, looking forward to hearing what Kevin has to say about those.
All right, we now welcome on to the Second Swing Thoughts podcast. It is your favorite host or co-host of the show, I think, or any of our programs, right? It's Mr. Kevin Kraft, joining from our Columbia store in the fitting bay. He's literally inside the tour van, joining us today. So, Kevin, thank you for joining. Today, we want to go through, just get your thoughts on some of the latest releases here during the kind of the summer months of 2024. We've got a few things to cover. Basically, I've got off the top of my head, we got Titleist GT, we've got Callaway Apex irons, we have Mizuno JPX 925, the hot metal irons. And then we also have the TaylorMade kind of the P770 new model this year, P7CB. So we wanted to kind of quick run through those and see what you've really seen in the fitting bays from those initially here. I've only been fitting them probably for a month, maybe 2 months on some of them. What have you seen from these new releases here?
This is going to be bad, but I haven't seen a whole lot because I've been out playing tournaments.
That's a great point. It's a great point. You've been out playing your events, and we have some content on that coming as well. But what have you? I mean, what do you know about them? What are you excited about them?
GT's doing very, very well. Titleist has put out yet another fantastic product. I'm looking forward to putting a ton of people in this over the next, 2 years of this life cycle. Yeah. Because I'm sure it's gonna stay right up at the top of everybody's list. Callaway Apex, we haven't had an Apex for quite a while, so that's exciting. Personally, I'm most excited about this Tie Fusion. I think I've spent a little tiny bit of time with it myself. The look, the feel, the sound, the numbers, all really, really good. And I know it's a little more of a premier piece, and I know it's pretty expensive, but I think it's going to be an incredible golf club that I will, I'll be pushing a little bit just from my own experience of how good this thing is. Well, I'm sure the standard Apex is going to do just fine as well. The Mizunos we haven't seen yet, or at least I have not seen yet. But again, it's going to be another great launch for Mizuno. Mizuno's been so prominent in our fittings for, the last few generations, and I have no doubt that it's going to be every bit as good, if not better than everything that they've had before. So I'm looking forward to getting our hands on that. And then, with TaylorMade, we've got the new P770 and the new PMC, a little more player oriented. The 770s slightly more refined. I mean, I like the new badging in the back. It feels really good. I've spent a little bit of time with it in the bay. I think for that player that's looking for, for that player product, either one of those is potentially going to be a real good one too. So, what's come out this late summer, early fall's exciting. It's good.
But yeah, it's kind of cool that we've got basically a release that covers like every category of iron, right? Because TaylorMade's kind of got the players covered with the P770, P7CB. We've got Mizuno now in their hot metals with the JPX 925. You've got more forgiveness, high MOI. You've got the sort of game improvement type iron. And then Callaway with the Apex, especially the AI 200 and the Tie Fusion are a little bit more of that player's distance type. So you have an iron for everybody out there right now. If you're looking for a new iron set right now, kind of as 2024 starts to wind down a little bit, it's weird that I'm saying that, but you've got an iron that is brand new here in the middle of the year for everybody. So that's kind of cool. And then obviously, if you need a driver and you want the absolute newest thing that's out, or a Fairwood, then you got GT. So I wanted to ask you specifically about Titleist because I know in the videos that we've done on TSR in the past, you've loved the look of them. And at least in my opinion, my favorite part about the GT stuff is, I know they made some changes under the hood to, improve the technology, improve mishits, things like that. But I just like that they left the look the same. I mean, it looks exactly the same. Instead of just TSR, it says GT right there on that kind of alignment aid in the middle of the crown. But everything else is the same. It looks the same because they know that their drivers look awesome and they didn't change from it.
Well, I'm going to kind of counter that just a little bit.
Oh yeah, I love it.
I think the TSR2 versus GT2 is a fairly significant change in the aesthetic.
Okay.
I loved so much about TSR2. The second I picked it up was the very refined shape that they had coming from TSI, and the GT to me is a little more squooshed down.
Squooshed, okay.
Yeah, I mean it's pushed it out a little bit, whereas it was a little harder to tell the difference between the 2 and the 3 in the TSR. So
interesting. Okay. Actually, again, and maybe I haven't looked at them as much as you. I probably haven't looked at them as much as you have, but I've thought the GT had it actually closer together between the 3 and the 2 versus TSR. Interesting, but
I mean, look, I'm
say,
old. Maybe it's my eyes. I don't know. I haven't gotten a new prescription for a while, so it could be
either,
me.
so.
But my sense was the 3 stayed very similar. The 4 stayed very similar. All the new workings are under the hood. But to me, the 2 was the biggest change. And personally, I kind of like the look of the TSR2 a little bit better, but we're talking, personal opinions, and those things don't really matter unless you're the one getting fit.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I like in terms of, because they, that classic black glossy crown, that still stays the same. I know the shaping, at least in your opinion, is a little bit different. But they've stuck to, for the most part, what has worked, and then they've improved what they could improve, which is really good to see. And again, the initial feedback from you so far and from other fitters has been that it's been really good stuff. So I'm imagining the rest of this year, and then when January rolls around and we've probably got more new releases coming out, I'm sure GT will still be tough to beat in there when there's all these other, new products in the fitting bay to compete with, so to speak.
Titleist really just kind of given themselves a little bit of a head start over everybody else, which is kind of scary considering how good the product is anyway. Giving them a chance to get out early and get off to the races is it's a challenge for the rest of the manufacturers, because if their stuff's not dropping to retail until February, we're talking 6 months of advance in the GT, and that's good. I mean, it's great to have a high end, really great product dropping this time of year. Keep people, interested and swinging away at some new products.
And in terms of adjustability, the GT3, is that right now in the fitting bay, is it the most adjustable driver, or is it close? I guess the STG Mizuno driver is pretty much up there. I know there's a few with a sliding weight, but then there's also all the settings of the SureFit hosel. So I'm just, is it up there as the most adjustable right now?
Look, Titleist SureFit hosel to me is really the industry standard, just because we can do so much with it. We can open the face, we can keep it square, we can close it a little bit, we can close it a little bit more. Obviously, those change lie angles as well. We can go up and down in loft. So, yeah, I mean, for pure adjustability, especially in the 3 with the weights we can shift around, yeah, I think you're right. I think it's the most adjustable driver out there.
Yeah, it's really cool what they've done with that. I know you're not the only one, but all the fitters have said the same thing. It's awesome to have all those capabilities in the bay. One thing I also wanted to ask you about in terms of, I don't know how much you've hit the new Apex irons, whether it's the Tie Fusion or specifically the AI 200, AI 300, but this new construction that Callaway has where basically the face and the body are fully forged of the iron in terms of feel, and they've got the AI Smart Face in there as well. how does it feel to you in testing those? And then, what do you think in terms of an iron of this category, players distance and game improvement? What do you think of those being kind of fully forged models?
I mean, there's a lot of people that really prefer the idea of a forged golf club, and when you look at the player distance category, it's a lot of cast bodies and forged faces. So Callaway's specifically positioning itself, in this category as a fully forged option, which I think will work to their advantage. Apex has always been a premium product, and they've done such a great job with it. It's been weird to not have it, in the mix for as long as it's been out. So, but Callaway clearly wanted to make sure they had the right mix of things before they brought this premium product back out. They've changed the shape a little bit. So again, for some people it's going to be great. For some people, probably not as good. But I like having the two different versions, the 200 and 300 nomenclature. Kind of makes a little more sense. I mean, the way the industry is going, the DCB,
right? Yeah.
It was.
I see what you're saying. It was a little bit tough to figure out where that was positioned, and now it's a little more clear.
So now it's just a little bit easier. And then they separated the Thai Fusion by making it a black head, which.
Using titanium. I mean,
using titanium in the face. Yes,
it's totally different.
It was interesting. I was on a call with Callaway when they were introducing this, and the woman that was doing the presentation was really excited about it. And she's like, "Yeah, I've never felt anything like it." And that was all she said. She didn't say whether it was good or whether it was bad or whether it was, what that feel was. She just said she never felt anything
she
like
said
that.
It was bad, but
it would have been weird if it was bad. Yeah, for sure. So, I hit it and it feels like a great golf club. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm not necessarily going to say I haven't ever felt anything like it, but it's a really good feeling golf club. I'm excited about it. It looks good, feels good.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I guess that's what you need in a golf club. You need to look good, you need to feel good. And that's the exciting part about not really just GT or Callaway Apex, but also JPX 925 and the new TaylorMade stuff as well. But cool to get Kevin's thoughts on kind of the latest launches here in the summer of 2024. Some really good stuff. And of course, golfers watching or listening to this, if you're in need of some new clubs, we just listed off some great ones for you to try out and get in a fitting. So Kevin, thanks for joining, giving your insights on kind of the latest launches.
Anytime. It's good stuff.
All right. That was Kevin Kraft on the latest and greatest club releases here in the summer of 2024. I guess now we're kind of into the fall a little bit, but it was good to get Kevin's take on those. We had done a lot of stuff with him earlier in the year. We had to get his take on some of these bigger mid-season releases, especially with him out playing in competitions and whatnot. He hasn't totally had the time for us, I guess. And so, of course, we always appreciate Kevin's insight on those. Some fun stuff from him there. And then I also wanted to bring up, too, we have some fun content with him on the YouTube channel on Thursday this week. Myself against him in a 6-hole match. The backstory on it is that back earlier this summer, Sean, you actually posted on the Second Swing Social a grid, those $15 budget Build-A-Bag grids. Kevin built a bag and then commented and said he could beat me with that bag. So we put that to the test in a 6-hole match.
Looking forward to that.
It was fun.
Drew, you're a good player, but even with a different bag, if I was a betting man, I think I put my money on Kevin.
All I'll say is this: it was a very back and forth match.
Right, well,
a lot of punches thrown either way, metaphorically.
Can't wait to see it again. That airs on Thursday on our YouTube channel. We also got swing days coming up, another swing days, so keep your eye out for some swing days deals early next week. Clubs, bags, you name it. A lot of great stuff coming your way, so make sure you follow along for that. And then lastly here, I just want to, we have a great selection here at Second Swing. Sometimes, we want to highlight some of that, not so much in like a sales way, but just kind of a cool way.
Yeah.
So we're going to start, every once in a while, kind of a find of the week for each of us. Since this is the first week, this one's a little different. So I found the two things. If you follow our social media channels, you would have seen one of them out this weekend. Bag Boy, we have a couple Bag Boy bags.
Yeah.
Which, bags are, you just think, it's a golf bag. But these are actually pretty sweet. You got the Bag Boy, the ZTF, which stands Zip to Fit. And then you have the Cool Flex. And so if you're a person who likes to carry your bag, the Zip to Fit is really sweet because, one, it's lightweight. It has your 4-way top. It's, everything you need in the bag. But then it has 2 removable pockets on it that zip off, so that way your carry stand bag can turn into kind of that Sunday bag.
Yeah.
I know you got to kind of test those out. What were your thoughts?
was really cool. This is the first time I've seen this in terms of like 2 removable pockets from a bag. So, and a lot of these times, we get these bags and we do a quick video on them. It's one thing where we want to make sure the person informed or on the website is informed. We tell them about it, and that's kind of maybe it sometimes. But this one I was like thoroughly impressed and excited about this one. So you can take those pockets off of there if you'd like. Otherwise, if you want to leave them on, they're excellent storage too. So really good product there from Bag Boy.
Yeah, and then their other one's the Cool Flex. Now, that's kind of your cart bag, whether you're walking or riding. But what makes this one stand out, it has a detachable cooler. And it can fit 12 of your...
It's a big cooler.
It is a big cooler. It can fit 12 of your favorite 12-ounce drinks. Not saying what that is.
Yeah.
Preferably you're buying them at the course, but,
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But it is nice to have out there. And, again, detachable. And it's very easy to detach, too. The system, you turn a couple latches, and then it's Velcro and really easy. So, again, Bag Boy... They've knocked it out of the park with these 2 things. I think these 2 products are really nice.
Yeah, might have to put that on my Christmas list, see if the wife will hook me up.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm going to do the same thing, I think.
All right, let's do it. Anyways, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Second Swing Thoughts podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Follow us on your favorite podcast network, and we'll see you back here next week.